A rock the size of your fist can tell you more about where gold is hiding than an entire afternoon of panning blind. Most people walk past it because it doesn't sparkle. It doesn't need to. Gold almost never travels alone. It shows up next to a small, predictable cast of companion rocks. And once you know how to read them, you stop guessing and start narrowing down ground with an actual system. Today on Hidden Fix Lab, we're breaking down 5 rocks that mean gold is nearby, what they actually look like when you're standing over them, and how professional prospectors use them before they ever dip a pan in the water. Here's the problem with how most beginners search for gold. They scan gravel for something yellow and shiny and call that prospecting. But gold is too rare and too fine to reliably spot by eye in most creeks. What actually works is reading the rocks that form, weather, or wash downstream alongside it. Each one is a signpost, not a guarantee. It tells you whether the geology in that exact spot is even capable of producing gold before you spend hours testing it. Some of these clues point uphill, to gold still locked inside bedrock. Others point downstream, to gold that's already loose and settling into gravel traps. Knowing which one you're looking at changes where you dig entirely. Rock 1 is quartz, and it's still the single most important rock in prospecting. Gold frequently crystallizes inside fractures in white or milky quartz veins, sometimes visible, more often microscopic. In the field, vein quartz breaks with a glassy conchoidal fracture and shows up as angular, freshly broken-looking chunks, very different from smooth, rounded creek pebbles that have simply tumbled downstream. When you spot blocky white quartz on a hillside above a creek, you're often looking at material eroding straight out of a hard rock system uphill, which is exactly why prospectors test the water below it. Rust-colored staining on that quartz is an especially strong signal. It usually means sulfide minerals inside the vein have oxidized to the surface, and those sulfides commonly share space with gold in the same system. A simple steel scratch test helps confirm quartz on the spot. A knife blade will skid across it rather than bite in. Rock 2 is pyrite, nicknamed fool's gold for good reason. Its brassy color and metallic flash fool people constantly. But experienced prospectors don't dismiss it because pyrite and gold frequently crystallized in the very same hydrothermal veins. Finding pyrite doesn't mean you found gold. It means the chemistry of that vein system was active enough to concentrate metal-bearing minerals, which is a real step toward gold-bearing ground. The fastest field test is behavior under pressure. Pyrite is brittle and will shatter or powder at a crystal edge, while gold simply bends and dents. A cheap streak plate settles the argument instantly too. Pyrite leaves a greenish-black streak. Gold leaves a yellow one. Rock 3 is gossan, what pyrite becomes after it weathers, and often the most visible clue on an entire mountainside. Gossan is the rust-colored, iron-stained rock left behind, once sulfide minerals near the surface oxidize and break down. It's essentially the weathered remnant of a metal-rich vein, standing out as an orange-brown ridge against gray or greenish surrounding rock. Not every rust stain qualifies. Desert iron crusts and weathered basalt can look similarly orange, without any connection to gold. Genuine gossan usually caps a quartz or silicified structure, and breaking one open often reveals a honeycombed hollow boxwork texture where sulfide crystals have dissolved away, leaving iron oxide behind. Spotting gossan above a creek is one of the strongest reasons to test the gravel below it. Rock 4 is black sand, and it's where gravity finally does the sorting for you. Black sand isn't one mineral. It's a heavy concentrate of magnetite, ilmenite, hematite, garnet, and similar dense grains that settle wherever moving water slows down. Gold belongs in that exact same density layer, so wherever black sand collects, inside river bends, behind boulders at the base of waterfalls, is where gold collects too. A strong hand magnet pulls the magnetite straight out of a dry concentrate, and pulling it doesn't remove any gold, since native gold isn't magnetic at all. Finding black sand without gold still tells you something useful. The river is sorting heavy minerals correctly, which means gold could show up there if the right source rock exists upstream. Rock 5 is the host rock itself. Greenstone, along with related metamorphic schist. And it answers the most basic question of all. Are you even standing in the right kind of country for gold to exist here? Much of the world's mined gold has come out of greenstone belts, dense greenish-gray metamorphic terrain often cut through by quartz veins. It looks unremarkable, which is exactly why beginners overlook it. But greenstone, near major fault zones, is where hot mineral-rich fluids historically moved and deposited quartz and metal into the surrounding fractures. When you find greenstone bedrock, quartz veins, sulfide staining, and black sand all in the same valley, you're no longer guessing. You're reading a complete geological sentence. Putting it together in the field is straightforward. Walk the high ground before you touch the creek, since the real story almost always starts uphill. Ask 4 questions in order. Is the bedrock greenstone or schist? Are quartz veins present? Is there pyrite or gossan staining? And does the creek actually hold black sand in its heavy layer? A basic kit, a pan, a classifier screen, a hand lens, a streak plate, and a strong magnet is genuinely enough to test all 5 clues in a single afternoon. A few real limitations worth knowing. None of these 5 rocks guarantees gold. They're filters, not promises. Old mine workings, exposed tunnels, and unstable banks are more dangerous than they look, so avoid entering old portals or digging near collapsed ground. And always confirm claim status and land access before sampling anything. Indicator rocks can tell you where gold should be, but they can't tell you where you're legally allowed to dig. The real shift here isn't memorizing 5 rock names. It's learning to walk into any creek and read the ground as a single continuous story. Host rock, vein, weathering, concentration, instead of scanning gravel and hoping something glitters. That's the difference between prospecting as luck and prospecting as fieldcraft. From all of us at Hidden Fix Lab, get out there, read the ground with fresh eyes, and see what your nearest creek has actually been telling you all along.